Imagine walking into a grocery store run by the exact same people who manage the DMV.
Oh man, that's a terrifying image to start with.
It really is. But welcome back to the deep dive. That image might actually become reality.
Yeah.
We are looking at a huge story out of City Hall this week. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is officially proposing a $70 million allocation to build 5 government-owned grocery stores.
Right, one in each borough. He's calling it a public option for produce.
Exactly. And the timing here is just wild. The city is currently staring down a massive $5.4 billion budget shortfall.
Which is a huge deficit.
Right. So to fund this $70 million grocery experiment, the administration is simultaneously cutting $30 million from public libraries.
Just letting that sink in. Cutting libraries to open supermarkets.
And proposing tax hikes on top of that.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our mission for today. We want to look past the campaign slogans. We are going to unpack the actual economic reality of municipal grocery stores.
Because it is a lot more complicated than just opening some doors and selling apples.
Exactly. We pulled a lot of sources for this deep dive. We have analysis from conservative economists at Fox Business, feasibility studies out of Chicago, urban policy reports right here in New York.
And just to be clear up front, we aren't taking sides here.
Right, no sides.
We are just looking at the math and the arguments presented in these reports. And the sources we reviewed lean heavily into the economic risks of this kind of government intervention.
They really do. So let's dive into the pitch versus the actual price tag. The mayor ran on a platform of affordability. People are feeling the squeeze at the checkout counter.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone feels it.
I mean, one of our sources sent someone to a local store in Brooklyn, and they found 4 organic gold kiwis selling for $9.99.
$10 for 4 kiwis.
It's just brutal, and the argument from the mayor's office is that this is basically price gouging. Private owners are marking things up too high, so the city needs to step in, cut out the profit motive, and bring prices down.
That is the core of the pitch. If you take away the private owner's need to make a profit, you can just pass those savings right back to you, the consumer.
It sounds great on paper.
It does. But then you run into basic economics, and this is where the sources get really critical. They point out that the grocery business operates on razor-thin margins.
How thin are we talking?
We are talking a profit margin of 1% to 3%.
Wow. Just 1% to 3%.
Yeah, it's incredibly low. Basically, if a store sells you $1 worth of food, they keep maybe 2 cents of profit.
So there isn't actually this massive pile of corporate greed money to trim away.
Exactly. Our sources emphasize that 70% of a store's sales revenue goes straight into just buying the inventory, paying the farmers, the trucking companies.
The structural costs.
Right. And then you have labor.
Right.
So Dr. Ann Rathbone-Bradley, she's an economist whose analysis we reviewed. She has this great line. She says the economy isn't an engineering project.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning you can't just pull a lever and fix prices with good intentions. Prices act as market signals. They tell a business what to do.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. Think about perishable goods, produce. If a private store buys too many avocados and prices them too high, nobody buys them. They rot.
And the store loses money.
Right. The manager feels that pain immediately. Next time, they order fewer avocados or they lower the price. The profit motive forces them to be incredibly efficient because survival depends on it.
I see. But with a city-run store...
With a city-run store, that signal collapses. If the government orders too much food and it rots, nobody loses their own money. Nobody goes out of business.
They just ask for a bigger budget next year.
Exactly. The taxpayer just absorbs the loss. And on the flip side, what happens if the government artificially sets the price of a steak way below the market rate? Let's say $5 a pound instead of 15.
Oh, well, people would just rush in and buy every steak immediately.
Immediately. You get hoarding. The shelves are empty by 10 in the morning. And because government purchasing is heavily bureaucratic, they can't just call a supplier to rush a new truck over.
It has to go through committees and procurement rules.
Right. So you just have empty shelves. And our sources point out this isn't just theory. We literally just saw this happen.
You mean the store in Kansas City?
Yes. Kansas City opened a publicly funded grocery store. It struggled with empty shelves, massive operational issues, and it completely failed. It closed its doors just this past August.
That is a huge red flag. And one of the biggest issues mentioned in that Kansas City failure was something called shrink, right?
Yeah, shrink, which is industry jargon for theft, lost inventory, damaged goods.
But mostly theft.
Mostly theft. Look at giant private chains like Walmart. They spend millions on sophisticated loss prevention. They have to, because of that tiny 1% margin. If someone steals a $10 item, the store has to sell $1,000 worth of goods just to make up the lost profit.
That math is just staggering. One theft wipes out 50 or 100 sales.
Exactly. Now put a government store in that position. People often have a psychological shift when something belongs to the city. They might feel less guilty taking from a government entity than a local family-owned bodega.
And the city stores won't have the sophisticated security infrastructure of a massive retail giant.
No, they won't. So you get high shrink, empty shelves, and heavy financial losses. And that was in Kansas City. Now imagine trying to pull this off in the most complex, expensive real estate market in the country.
Right, the New York City factor. This brings us to segment 3. Building anything here is famously difficult. The initial estimate for these 5 stores was $60 million.
And it already jumped to $70 million.
Before they even broke ground, why does it cost the city so much more just to build a box with some fridges?
Well, one of our sources, a journal called Vital City, did an analysis on public construction bloat. They used city libraries as a benchmark. Do you know what it costs the city to renovate a public library?
I have no idea.
Roughly $2,000 per square foot.
$2,000 a square foot for a renovation.
It's astronomical. Public projects here face unique pressures. They have complex bidding rules, prevailing wage laws, strict union mandates.
Which are intended to protect workers.
Yes, the intentions are good. But the economic reality is that these rules drive construction costs through the roof compared to a private grocer who can just negotiate directly with a contractor.
So before you even sell a single banana, the taxpayer is massively in the hole.
Massively. And that is just construction. They have to run the place. The city government has a terrible track record of acting as a commercial landlord. Look at the Public Housing Authority.
NYCHA.
Yeah. NYCHA has commercial storefronts at the bottom of their buildings that sit empty for years. They can't even manage basic leasing for spaces they already own.
So handing them a complex, highly perishable supply chain seems, well, incredibly risky.
There was a feasibility study out of Chicago that looked at this exact scenario. And their conclusion was basically a giant flashing warning sign. They explicitly warned the city, do not operate the store yourselves. They said cities lack the deep industry expertise for inventory management and staff training. They recommended that if a city wants to help, they should just be a supportive landlord. Offer the space to an actual private grocer.
But Mayor Mamdani's plan is for the city's Economic Development Corporation to manage this directly.
Which ignores the warnings from the Chicago report completely.
Okay, so if the government running a grocery store is a doomed experiment, which is what these economic analyses are strongly suggesting, how do we actually fix the high food prices?
That brings us to the real solution highlighted in our sources. It's about an abundance mindset. The problem isn't that the market is too free. The problem is that the market is strangled by local regulations.
Meaning there isn't enough competition.
Exactly. In a normal market, if a store charges $10 for kiwis, someone else opens up across the street, charges $7, and forces the first guy to lower his prices.
Right, they compete for your dollar.
But our sources point out that New York City's protectionist zoning laws make it nearly impossible for large, efficient competitors to enter the market.
We're talking about the big box stores.
Yes. Look at Walmart. Love them or hate them, their logistics drive prices down. There is a Walmart just over the city border in Valley Stream.
I know exactly where that is.
It is rumored to be the busiest Walmart in the entire country.
Seriously, the busiest.
Because New Yorkers are voting with their feet, they are driving across the border, taking buses, just to access those lower prices, because the city effectively bans those big stores from opening within the 5 boroughs.
Through the zoning laws.
Right. There is a specific rule that requires a special, lengthy city council vote for any store over 10,000 square feet in certain commercial areas.
10,000 square feet is tiny for a supermarket.
It's nothing. So if a private company wants to build a proper supermarket, they have to navigate a political gauntlet. It takes years. It costs millions in legal fees.
Which keeps the competition out.
Exactly. Or companies find crazy loopholes to hack the system.
Like what?
Have you ever noticed how many Trader Joe's and Whole Foods locations in the city are built entirely underground?
Oh yeah, you always have to take an escalator down. I always just thought that was a weird design choice to save money on street-level rent.
It's not. It's because the zoning rules say cellar space doesn't count toward that 10,000 square foot limit.
You are kidding me.
No. So these companies spend an absolute fortune excavating giant underground bunkers just to bypass a city regulation. And all that extra construction cost, that gets baked right into the price of your groceries.
That is just incredible. So the government creates the regulatory nightmare that drives up the cost of food and then proposes spending taxpayer money to build government stores to fix the problem they created.
That is exactly what the conservative economists are arguing. If the mayor really wants to lower prices, he doesn't need $70 million. He just needs to deregulate, remove the zoning cap, let private companies flood the zone with supply.
And what about the supply chain itself? Because getting food into the city is notoriously difficult.
That's the other big piece. Most of the fresh produce comes through the Hunts Point market in the Bronx.
Right.
But the infrastructure there is aging. The roads around it are constant traffic bottlenecks. It is highly inefficient. If the city focused on fixing the supply chain logistics, upgrading Hunts Point, smoothing out the trucking routes, that would lower the wholesale cost of an apple for every single bodega and supermarket in the city.
But fixing road infrastructure and zoning laws isn't very glamorous.
No, it doesn't make for a good campaign slogan. We reformed a zoning ordinance. Doesn't sound as punchy as we built you a public grocery store.
So it's about optics over actual economics.
According to the analysis we're looking at, yes. It's a feel-good project that ignores basic math.
Well, this has been an incredible breakdown. We started by looking at a $70 million proposal during a severe budget crisis. And the history and economics from our sources suggest this path leads to high costs, empty shelves, and a heavy burden on the taxpayer.
It really does.
It's a lot to think about, and I want to leave you with a final provocative thought that builds on all of this. If the city moves forward with this, and they subsidize these stores heavily with our tax dollars, they could easily undercut the local bodegas and independent grocers.
Oh, definitely.
Right. And if those independent stores go out of business, what happens when the next mayor faces a budget crisis and decides to close the city-run stores? We could be left with absolutely nothing, complete food deserts created by the very policy meant to solve them.
It's a very real risk. The government intervention could wipe out the fragile private ecosystem that already exists.
Exactly. Something to mull over the next time you're buying groceries. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning where your tax dollars go, and we will catch you next time.